Well, welcome. My name's Kevin, and this is the Bible Artist Podcast. I believe the arts can give us fresh eyes to see the significance of the Bible and the beauty of the gospel. I also believe the Bible can provide the arts with complex characters and stories with profound insight into the human condition. Catherine Lidstone is my guest today. You've seen her on The Chosen Season 4 as Mary of Bethany, sister of Martha and Lazarus, and we'll also be digging into a new role that she has in a movie that's releasing just in a couple of days, 47 Days with Jesus. It's another Bible-inspired movie, and so we'll be hearing about both of those roles that she is in. So, Catherine, let's start with your role as Mary in The Chosen. Kind of a random question to start you out. So, in The Chosen, there are at least 3 Marys currently. There's Mary, Jesus' mother, there's Mary Magdalene, and then there's your Mary, Mary of Bethany. Did it ever get confusing on set with all the different Marys?
So many moments were confusing. So when I first booked it, I had forgotten about this Mary. And I was like, Mary, they already cast Mary. I was like, and I saw that Mary. I was like, I saw that Mary. There's the mom Mary. And I was like, there's younger versions of and maybe this is a younger version of one of the Mary. And then I was like, oh, that Mary. So that in itself was a journey mentally to go on, a little bit of gymnastics going on. And then once I got to set, because there's so many Marys, I accidentally walked into Mary Mother's trailer once. And I'm pretty sure at the time she was pregnant and she was on a break. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And she was very, very sweet about it. But yes, that was definitely an issue on set, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenge.
Maybe not for anybody else, but for me.
Yeah, just there's so many Marys going on. But yeah, I thought they did a good job of distinguishing. So, okay. So the story of the conflict between Martha and your Mary is pretty well known. I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and it's actually her favorite story in her kids' Bible, the Mary Martha. So I'm just curious, kind of having gone through prep and having acted out that scene, what's your understanding of kind of who your character, your Mary, is, and the source of kind of that conflict between her and her sister Martha?
Yes, I believe through study, what I would say that is revealed in the most powerful way, and I think The Chosen really honors this, is that Martha is very concerned with the things in front of her that need handling. And that is a legitimate concern. And hospitality is a beautiful gift, right? So when people honor that and honor other people by feeding them and by hosting them and by inviting them into your home, there's nothing wrong with that inherently. I think Jesus is making the point that cannot be the sole focus. That, despite being however good it is, can also not rob you of who I am. And so, my mom and I have this running joke that she's Martha and I'm Mary, because she's such a good host and she's like a beast in the kitchen. She can put anything together and it's amazing, and the presentation is phenomenal, and people are just overjoyed when they get invited to a party that she's going to be cooking for. So I don't have those skills. And when I try to help her in the kitchen, I'm very slow, or I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. And so she's like, I don't have time to coach you. You just need to get this done. And so we have this joke, but she is, that's a form of love. She's loving she's showing love to the people she cares about. And so Martha's doing the same thing. She's providing in that way. And I think it's really just, this always goes back to the Lord knows the heart. And, the point is made in our show that Mary maybe could have helped a little bit. And I agree with that. However, I wouldn't want it to take away from his teaching. Yep. And I think that's what Mary is really eager for and absorbing the whole time. So nothing is pulling her. There's no distraction that's going to pull her from what she believes to be the most important thing. And what's beautiful is that despite all of our worldly concerns, where you could easily logically rationalize Martha's behavior and needs and make sure and realize that those are important, Mary is in this other place where she's not even considering that. And that could be considered cold and harsh by worldly standards, but by the Lord's standards in this moment, he honors that because she's focused on the eternal things. which is beautiful in
Wow.
itself.
Yeah, definitely. That's really funny that you had that ongoing joke with your mom, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool.
Thanks.
It was when you told her that you got the part. I'm sure that was a fun little like thing to
Yeah,
share.
I think we were all just so blown away and excited.
Mm,
And I'm just like, I think that confusion lasted for a bit of time because I was like, I guess it's this Mary, maybe, but I don't. So it was a fun
mm.
journey learning which Mary it was and then
Yeah,
getting to
yeah.
very excited about that. Yeah.
Well, your character has a couple other big moments in season 4, including the burial of her brother Lazarus, and then the resurrection of Lazarus that soon follows. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I'm curious, like, as you were thinking about those scenes and preparing, what do you think Mary was going through as she went from like mourning her brother's death to like rejoicing over his resurrection? What do you think that experience was like for her? And then like what was it like for you as you tried to ride that roller coaster of emotions?
Yes, it certainly was a roller coaster. I remember it started on day one. We got
Mm,
there and I flew in, and then by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock the next morning, we were supposed to be on set shooting one of the most, and I would say for my character, certainly the most intense emotional scene of the entire season.
oh yeah.
And that's everyone's favorite shortest verse of the Bible. And the moment before, when Mary is speaking to the Lord and
Hmm.
basically confronting him because she knows what he's capable of. And
Yeah.
she just knows, her and Martha both know if he were there, things would have been different.
Yeah.
And there's this yearning and this disappointment and this upset. And you could even argue, as I don't know how far into rage we would go, but certainly
Mm,
anger
yeah.
that despite calling for him, knowing he could solve this problem, he did not. And
Mm,
so I think this is a journey for Mary of not comprehending and
mm,
seeking her faith and questioning and doubting. And
mm,
that's not an easy journey. I think many of us have gone through that journey. So I feel like this character goes through the gamut this season.
yeah.
There's joy, there's all of the things I just mentioned, and then there's the testing of the faith, which produces a final result. And
Mm,
her final result is quite admirable. Obviously, I think it's a level of worship and love for the Lord that all of us aspire to.
mm,
But yeah, she goes through it this season, and I think for me that was just a wild acting challenge.
yeah.
And certainly as a person who shares this faith, it was a great personal responsibility because I wanted to ensure that everyone, and there are many, who knows this story would feel that it was done justice.
Mm,
So, we hope we accomplish that when we shoot this project. We
mm.
can't always guarantee it, but I think every single department comes together and ensures that beautiful work is done and presented to the fans. So
Well,
that's a joy.
yeah, just speaking from my experience, I thought it was a really beautiful scene. Yeah, and
Thank you.
just really moving for me. So I'm
Hmm.
sure that many fans are feeling that as well.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
We've been getting a lot
um,
of feedback online, and then other fans are jumping in saying, "Hey, no spoilers! It's not in our country yet."
that's
So
true.
we're
Yeah, it can be tricky
honoring.
with like and
Yeah,
then
the
also
timeline.
it being in theater
Hmm.
versus
I know, and then streaming, and then and
yeah.
then everyone's like, "When's it coming out?" I was like, "I don't know. I wish I knew these things."
I'll make sure to put like a little bit. I mean,
Yes,
the
let's
things
warn
that we've shared
them.
aren't exactly spoilers because they've been,
Right, it's in
in
the
the Bible
Bible.
for,
Yeah.
you know, almost 2,000 years. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
but still, I'll put a spoiler warning in
Thank you.
advance. But
Thank you.
yeah,
They'll thank you too, I'm sure.
yeah. So you we're kind of speaking to this also. So later in episode 8, Mary then, out of that kind of welling up of gratitude that she has for what Jesus did, she goes and she buys the really expensive nard, spends
Hmm.
bags and bags of money, and
Miss
then
Moneybags
she
over there. Yeah.
yeah,
That's the
and
thing.
then
She
she
says in
takes
this
it
movie.
and she,
Easier to remember.
yeah, she pours it on Jesus' feet and even lets down her hair, which,
Hmm.
at the time was a more kind of culturally transgressive act. And then she
Hmm.
wipes Jesus's feet with her hair. So kind of a, even from our modern perspective, kind of a strange situation happening, and at the time even more maybe. Jesus responds to what she does by saying that, like, the deed that she's done is going to be included, whenever his gospel is preached, whenever the Bible is shared, that she'll be remembered. So I'm curious, yeah, what you think the kind of the what makes that act by Mary so special or so important.
I remember a beautiful conversation I had with Dallas Jenkins when we were shooting this scene. And,
Mm,
I had, of course, done my own prep work and read these scriptures so many times and,
mm,
prayed and meditated over it and tried to seek the Lord's guidance in worship. And, who is this girl? How can I
mm,
make sure I encapsulate who she is at the core? And some of that was listening to worship songs about this moment. And Alabaster Box by CC Winans was one of them. And there's another beautiful new song that I discovered actually after we filmed it, called Pure by Abby Gamboa. And just
huh,
what I started to realize in this conversation with Dallas was this is one of the first acts of worship recorded in the Bible for Jesus.
huh,
And so she's sort of in her own way, she's a worship leader. And
mm,
Dallas reached me there because he knew that I have done worship leading at my own churches and
huh,
in my own communities. And so he had, I'm sure he'd seen it on Instagram or something, but he shared that with me and he was like, we don't have to just approach this with the tears and with, the sadness and the emotional depth of what you've been through. We can also approach this from joy and hope that
mm,
he is the savior of the world, the King
mm,
of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And so that was a beautiful addition to what I had prepared because I think it opened up the floodgates of just ebullient, overflowing love
mm,
in worship for this person. And not just, I am so unworthy as a human being.
mhm,
There's nothing good in us, right? Except the
mm,
Holy Spirit. So that's where I had been coming from, was this place of I could never earn this. I could never deserve what
mm,
you have done for me. But then he gave me that new lens of, but I'm overjoyed because of who you are anyway.
mm,
And so that was I think revelatory for how that moment eventually evolved. And we shot it so many times because we had to get everyone's reaction shots, and there were so many disciples. There was a full table, a full house of people,
yeah,
people on the couches, the siblings, Jesus, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, which characters were there as the antagonists sort of characters. And we had to get everyone's coverage, and they
mm,
needed to be watching me do it. So I don't even know how many times we shot that
wow,
day, but I think even just being able to do it that many times informed what it became.
mm,
Um, because gosh, I wonder what that moment would have been like in real life when she did it.
mm,
I have an idea now, but yeah, it was wild.
mm,
That was a wild, wild moment, and a crazy day on set and a beautiful day on set. And it was
mm,
Dallas's birthday that day. And then
mm.
there were hazards in the room. Like we found a scorpion on the floor, and
Oh wow.
I think I only found it because I was kneeling on the floor while they were setting up one of the shots. And I was just focusing on what I was doing. And I tend to like look away from people when I'm focusing on something emotional like that.
Yeah.
And I caught the floor moving and I was like, wait, what is that? So I
Oh,
lean in and one of the crew members is like, is that a scorpion? And I was like, yes, I think it is. So
oh,
we had a nice moment where Dallas saved the day and saved all of us with our bare feet and our, sandal bared feet, where we would definitely have gotten hurt by a scorpion running
oof,
around that. So it was a wild day, and I think the Come and See Foundation, the board was there that day, and so everybody, I just feel like everybody, the crew, everyone just gave that scene the time and space it needed to
Mm,
be what it became, and it was very moving and very beautiful. I mean, crew members were crying. I was
mm,
obviously crying the whole day.
mm,
but but it was a touching moment, I think, for a lot of us. So I'm
mm.
glad to see that it's also touching the fans. That's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. As you're saying that, it just makes me think of um, this whole process of creating, retelling the gospel story through a show. It almost seems like that is like in and of itself kind of an act of worship. Um, for at least for those of you that are, you know, believe, in
Yeah.
Jesus. Um,
I would say that it has enlightened me on scripture more because you have to do a real deep psychological dive onto these real people that went through these real things that have been recorded down in the gospel and in the chronicles and all these other beautiful addendums to the Bible that some of us get to read when we learn about what they are, because half of us haven't heard of them. Um, but I think the other thing that was just so beautiful about the whole process was I was already a person of faith in my real life, and I had never really been able to express that in any other job I had in the industry. There was one feature film I did years ago, and it was a Christian film, faith-based film. Um, but this is very unique for me. It's because outside of that, it's all been secular media, just regular TV shows, cable network, feature films that end up on Amazon or Netflix or whatever it is. And this is yeah, I would say it's a new level of freedom. It feels unlocked because I use my personal faith for my acting and the craftsmanship of coming up with these emotions and characters. I rely on that quite frequently. And to be able to do that in such a setting as to appreciate it as much as The Chosen and the storyline involved with The Chosen requires, I think it has really affected me positively and been a beautiful thing to experience. But yeah, I think for me it's more just a testament to God's faithfulness, because there have been many instances where I've been offered jobs or had to leave jobs due to just differences in creative opinion, and some of those stem from, you know what, I don't think that this is how God sees women, so I'm not going to do these things as a character, right? And so to get a job like this after having been through some of those situations, I just think is a gift.
yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing about Mary. I was just so impressed by your portrayal of her and really enjoyed all that you brought to The Chosen through that role. Switching gears a little bit to 47 Days with Jesus, your other big Jesus project. Could you tell us a little bit more about the premise of that film and what your role is in it?
Yes, I'm starring with Yoshi Barrigas, our first Philip from The Chosen, and it's been so much fun. Cameron Arnett is one of our stars as well on this film, and it's a beautiful film. It's a family film. We just got Dove approved for all ages, so it's anyone in the family can come to see it. And what I love about this movie is that it's an intertwining of the gospel and how it reaches all of our hearts in the midst of the modern world. And so you get to meet this family. Yoshi and I are a married couple in the film, and we're going through a very rough time in our marriage. And he's got a lot of demands on him from work, and the kids are suffering because they're not getting enough quality time with their dad. And the wife is suffering because she's feeling neglected as well. So they're just all feeling like they're not each other's priority, and everyone is coming at this with a lot of their own reality, and it requires, I think, a lot of compassion to understand there's no right party here. Everyone goes through this stuff, and every family goes through this. And what I love about the film is that through the journey of spending time with the in-laws or the grandparents in this case, we get to hear the story of the gospel as a tradition passed down among the generations. So my husband is like heard it, over it, he's busy, he's got work, he can't listen to it again. And so the grandfather is trying desperately to spread it to the grandchildren, and they love it. They're so into the story. They want to hear more. It's intense at some parts. It's a little intense for them to hear, but the way that the movie has been built is that there's an original songbook where we get to go through those Jesus stories in music and in song and dance. And we had a whole shoot out in Texas at the Capernaum Studios, and another wardrobe department who handled that era of the film. So it's been it's been amazing just to learn about the story through a modern lens. And I think even secular people have watched this movie and been like, you know what? I'm actually questioning my daily choices because of the relatability of these characters that I'm seeing and what they're going through. It really reminds me of what I'm going through, and I think I'm going to start making some different choices out of respect and love for the people who I care about. So I think it's a beautiful message, and the film itself is just so multifaceted, and we have Grammy-winning artists who have written the songbook and recorded it, and so it's an exciting ride. It's a very fun Easter film, and I think it just carries on that what's the word, totem, like carries on the torch for Easter every year. I think any family could come and see this and just remember the real meaning of the holiday.
The fact that you and your co-star Yoshi, you've worked on a show, The Chosen, that retells the story of Jesus, and now you're in this film in which you and him are retelling that story along with the grandparents to kind of the next generation. I feel like that's a little like meta. Do you feel like there's almost like a parallel between what the parents and the grandparents are trying to accomplish and what the Chosen itself is trying to accomplish in retelling the gospel?
Yes, that's so funny. I love the way you phrased the question. I think one of my favorite things about The Chosen is their catchphrase, binge Jesus. And I just
Mm,
feel like we we really are in a culture where we'll just sit down and watch a show for an entire weekend. And like I wonder what people from another era would think of that. Like, wait, you're
mm,
just going to stop living your own life and watch somebody else live their life for 48 hours? Like, what are you doing? Like, don't you have to check on the farm and the whatever your responsibilities would be
mm,
in, 2000 years ago? But so in a way it seems preposterous, but this is our culture. And so
mm,
what I find beautiful is that at the very least, if we are going to be binging something, could we binge something that challenges our understanding of the world? Could we binge
mm,
something that demands better of ourselves? Could
mm,
we binge something that makes us better people, makes us make better choices, makes us love others? I mean,
mm,
like, really, when you think about the figure of Jesus, he is just this rogue lover. He just
mm,
loves people outside of every standard of society and every rule that we're all told we have to follow. He just exists outside of it. And he says,
mm,
no, I don't care that you have sinned. I am
mm,
here to tell you I still love you. And I want better for you. And I know
mm,
you are capable of more than the life
mm,
you feel you've been given. So I just see it as a beautiful encouragement. And yes, it's a story that obviously lasts from generation to generation to generation to generation. It's eternally true. It's
mm,
never left the earth since it happened. And so we change the way we measure time based on this man.
mm,
So I yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of this legacy. And if that makes anybody's life better in any way, what a gift to be able to have
mm.
used art in this capacity.
Yeah, that was very well put.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us. Yeah, I really hope people will go out. Again, it's just in a couple days, March 11th
Yes.
through the 14th.
Hmm.
And really great way to kind of prepare for Good Friday and Holy Week and Easter. So, and yeah, just thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us and sharing so many insights with us.
Thank
And
you so
yeah,
much.
I'm sure we've all enjoyed your performance in The Chosen so much, and I hope people will also really enjoy your performance in 47 Days. So
Thank
thanks
you.
again, and thanks everybody for listening to the Bible Artist Podcast.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.